Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Aurora Station, staring at the massive view screen that showed nothing but empty space and distant stars. The year was 2387, and humanity had spread across 12 different star systems. Jake had been running this deep space research station for 3 years now, and most days were pretty quiet. They studied planets, collected data, and sent reports back to Earth. It was good work, but not very exciting. That changed on a Tuesday morning when the alarm started beeping. "Captain, we're getting something strange on the long-range sensors," said Danny Wright, the communications officer. He was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and nervous hands that always seemed to be moving. 3 big objects coming our way from outside the galaxy. Jake walked over to Danny's station and looked at the screen. 3 dots were moving toward them, but they were still very far away. "How big are we talking about?" "Each one is about the size of a city, sir, maybe bigger." Danny's voice was shaking a little. "And Captain, they're moving really fast. Faster than anything we've ever seen." Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her desk across the bridge. She was the station's expert on alien life, though they had never found any real aliens before. Lisa was in her 40s with long black hair that she always kept tied back when she worked. "Are you sure they're ships? Could they be asteroids or something natural?" Danny shook his head. "No, ma'am. They're giving off energy readings. Lots of energy. More than our biggest ships back home." Jake felt his stomach tighten. Aurora Station had weapons, but they were mostly for protection against space pirates or small threats. If these 3 ships wanted to cause trouble, his station wouldn't last very long. "How long until they get here?" "About 6 hours, sir." "Okay." Jake turned to the rest of his crew on the bridge. "Danny, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them what's happening. Lisa, I want you to study those energy readings. See if you can figure out what kind of technology we're dealing with. Where's Alex?" "Commander Torres is checking the defense systems," Lisa said. Alex Torres was the head of security for Aurora Station. He was a tough guy from Texas who had served in the Space Marines before taking this job. Jake trusted him completely. If there was going to be trouble, Alex would be ready for it. The next few hours passed slowly. The crew watched as the 3 ships got closer and closer. Lisa spent most of her time looking at the computer readings, trying to understand what she was seeing. "Captain," she said finally, "this doesn't make sense. The energy they're using should be impossible. It's like they found a way to bend the laws of physics." "What do you mean?" "Well, according to our science, you can't move ships that big at the speed they're traveling. It should take more energy than exists in the universe, but somehow they're doing it." Jake nodded, but he didn't really understand. Science had never been his strong point. He was better at making quick decisions and keeping people safe. "Are they dangerous?" "I don't know. Maybe. But Captain, there's something else. I'm picking up life signs from those ships." "Aliens?" Lisa looked confused. "That's the weird part. The life signs look human. Not exactly human, but very close. Closer than they should be if these beings came from outside our galaxy." Alex Torres walked onto the bridge just then. He was a big man with dark skin and serious eyes. "Captain, our weapons are ready. But honestly, if those ships want to fight us, we're not going to win. Should I contact the other stations in this system?" "Already did," Jake said. "But they're all smaller than us and further away. We're on our own for now." The 3 ships finally came close enough to see clearly on the view screen. They were beautiful and strange at the same time. Each ship looked like it was made of some kind of silver metal that seemed to glow with its own light. They were long and smooth, with no sharp edges or ugly parts like human ships usually had. They looked like someone had taken a piece of art and made it fly through space. "They're not responding to any of our signals," Danny said. "I've tried everything. Mathematical codes, pictures, even music. Nothing." "Keep trying," Jake said. The ships moved into a triangle formation around Aurora Station. They were close enough now that Jake could see details on their hulls. There were windows, or what looked like windows, and strange symbols that might have been writing. Suddenly, Danny jumped in his chair. "Captain, they're sending us a message." "Put it through the speakers." A voice filled the bridge. It was speaking, perfect English with no accent that Jake could recognize. The voice sounded human, but there was something different about it, something that made Jake feel small and young. Greetings to the children of Earth. We are the predecessors. We have traveled far across the dark space between galaxies to find you. We seek our lost children who ventured into the dark between stars long ago. Jake looked at Lisa, who looked back at him with wide eyes. Alex had his hand on his weapon, but Jake motioned for him to stay calm. We wish to speak with your leaders. We have much to share with you, and much to learn about how you have grown during our long absence. May we come aboard your station? Jake took a deep breath. This was the biggest decision of his life, maybe the biggest decision in human history. These beings said they were humanity's ancestors, but was that possible? And even if it was true, could they be trusted? Danny, open a channel. Channel open, sir. This is Captain Jake Morrison of Aurora Station. You say you're our ancestors. Can you prove that? We understand your caution, young one. When we meet face to face, we will show you the truth of our words. We carry with us the history of your people from the time before you forgot your origins. Lisa was typing quickly on her computer. She looked up at Jake and nodded. It was her way of saying that the life signs from the ships really did look human. We will allow one of your ships to dock with our station, Jake said. But only one, and only a small group of your people. That is acceptable. We thank you for your trust. You will not regret this meeting. One of the 3 ships moved closer to Aurora Station. It was still huge, but Jake could see now that part of it was designed to connect with other ships. It looked almost like the docking ports they used for human ships, but more advanced. Alex, get your security team ready, Jake said quietly. Lisa, I want you there when they come aboard. If they really are related to us somehow, you'll be able to tell. As Jake watched the alien ship dock with his station, he wondered if he was making the right choice. In a few minutes, he would meet beings who claimed to be humanity's long-lost family. But something in his gut told him that this meeting would change everything, and not necessarily for the better. The docking process took almost an hour. Jake Morrison watched from the bridge as the alien ship connected with Aurora Station. Everything looked normal on the outside, but his heart was beating fast. Alex Torres had 6 security officers waiting in the docking bay, all of them armed but trying not to look threatening. Captain, Danny Wright said from his station, the docking is complete. The aliens are asking permission to come aboard. Tell them yes, Jake said, but remind them that only a small group. Jake left the bridge and walked quickly to the docking bay. Lisa Carter was already there, holding a small computer that would help her study the aliens. She looked nervous but excited. This was what she had trained for her whole life, even though no one had ever expected to actually meet aliens. You ready for this? Jake asked her. I think so, Lisa said. The life sign readings are still showing human-like biology, but there's something strange about the energy patterns around them. The airlock door made a soft hissing sound as it opened. Jake held his breath. 3 figures walked through the door and Jake's mouth fell open. They looked completely human. Not almost human, not sort of human, but exactly human. The leader was tall, maybe 6.5 feet, with long silver hair and bright blue eyes. He wore clothes that looked like they were made from some kind of shining material that changed colors slightly when he moved. Behind him came a woman with dark hair and green eyes, and another man with brown hair. All 3 of them were beautiful in a way that made Jake feel like he was looking at movie stars. But there was something else about them, something that made him feel small and unimportant. Greetings, the tall man said, walking forward with his hands open to show he wasn't carrying weapons. I am Kyle. These are my companions, Vera and Marcus. We are honored to meet you, children of the Lost Expedition. Jake stepped forward, trying to look confident. I'm Captain Jake Morrison. This is Dr. Lisa Carter, our expert on biology, and Commander Alex Torres, our security chief. Kale smiled, and his smile was perfect. Too perfect. We are pleased to see that humanity has grown strong during our absence. Your station is impressive for such a young civilization. Young civilization? Alex asked. His hand was still near his weapon. How old do you think we are? Perhaps we should sit and talk, Kyle said. We have much to explain. And you have much to learn. They went to the station's main meeting room. Jake noticed that the three aliens moved in a strange way, like they were floating just slightly above the ground. Lisa was watching them carefully, making notes on her computer. Thousands of years ago, Kale began, our people faced a great disaster. Our homeworlds were dying, and we had to leave everything behind. We sent out many ships to find new places to live. One of those ships carried your ancestors. You're saying humans came from your people? Jake asked. Not exactly, Vera said. Her voice was soft and musical. Your ancestors were volunteers who agreed to be changed so they could survive on the worlds we found for them. Over time, they forgot their origins and became what you call human. Lisa looked up from her computer. That would explain the similarities in our biology, but I'm seeing some differences too. Your DNA structure is more complex than ours. Have had more time to grow and change, Marcus said, but we are still family. For the next several hours, the aliens told amazing stories about their civilization. They showed pictures on small devices that created three-dimensional images in the air, cities that floated among the stars, ships bigger than planets, technologies that could create matter from energy. We have been searching for our lost colonies for centuries, Kale explained. We have found many of them and welcomed them back into our civilization. They are all happy to be reunited with their true family. Where are these other colonies now? Jake asked. They live with us in the space between galaxies, where it is safe and peaceful. They have learned to use our technologies and live much longer, happier lives than they could alone. Dr. Ben Hayes arrived during the afternoon. He was the station's archaeologist, an old man with gray hair who knew more about human history than almost anyone. Kale seemed very interested in talking to him. We can show you artifacts that prove our connection to your people, Kale said. He gestured to Vera, who brought out a small metal box. Inside were objects that looked very old. Stone tools, pieces of metal with strange writing, and something that looked like a computer but was made from materials that Ben had never seen before. These came from the ship that carried your ancestors, Kale said. We have kept them safe all this time. Ben examined the artifacts carefully. The stone tools do look like very old human work, he said slowly. But I've never seen anything like these metal pieces. Meanwhile, Rosa Martinez was having her own conversation with Marcus about their ships. Rosa was the station's chief engineer, a smart woman from Mexico who could fix anything. She was fascinated by the alien technology, but also confused by some of what she saw. Your ships are incredible, she said, but some of the design doesn't make sense. It's like you took parts from different types of technology and put them together. Marcus smiled. We have learned from many civilizations over the centuries. We take the best ideas from each one and combine them. That night, after the aliens had returned to their ship, Jake called a meeting with his senior staff. What do you think? He asked. The artifacts look real, Ben said, and their story makes sense mostly. Humans have always wondered where we came from. But I'm worried about something, Rosa said. When I was looking at their ship's connection to our station, I picked up some strange signals. They were sending messages back and forth between their three ships. What kind of messages? Alex asked. I couldn't understand them, but I recorded everything. There were words that sounded like harvest and genetic compatibility. When I asked Marcus about it, he said they were just scientific terms. Lisa frowned. I've been thinking about their biology readings. They're human-like, but there are some things that don't add up. Some of their internal organs seem different from what they should be. Different how? Jake asked. I'm not sure, yet. I need more time to study the data. Danny spoke up from the corner. Captain, I've been monitoring their communications all day. Most of it is in languages I don't recognize, but I did catch something. They mentioned other successful integrations and something about preparation phases. Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Integration? What does that mean? I don't know, sir. But it didn't sound like they were just talking about reuniting families. Alex leaned forward. Captain, I think we need to be more careful. These people seem friendly, but something feels wrong. My security team has been watching them all day and they move like soldiers, not like peaceful explorers. What do you mean? They watch everything. They notice every door, every security camera, every weapon. And when they think we're not looking, they communicate with their hands in some kind of sign language. Jake rubbed his forehead. He was getting a headache. So what are you all saying? That they're lying to us? Maybe not lying, Lisa said carefully, but maybe not telling us the whole truth either. They want us to come with them, Ben added. Back to their space between galaxies. They say other human colonies have done it and been happy. But if that's true, why can't we talk to any of these other colonies directly? Rosa nodded. I asked about that too. Kale said the distances are too great for normal communication, but their ships can obviously travel those distances easily. Jake looked around the room at his team. These were good people, smart people who had worked together for years. If they were all feeling nervous about the aliens, maybe there was a good reason. Okay, he said finally. We'll keep being polite and friendly, but we'll also be careful. Rosa, I want you to keep monitoring their signals. Lisa, keep studying their biology. Danny, record everything they say. And Alex, keep your security team ready. What if they really are our ancestors? Ben asked. Jake thought about that for a moment. Then they'll understand why we want to be sure before we make any big decisions. And if they're not? He didn't finish the sentence, but everyone in the room understood what he meant. 3 days passed since the aliens had arrived at Aurora Station. Kyle and his companions spent most of their time in meetings with Jake Morrison and his crew, showing more artifacts and telling stories about their great civilization. But Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. On the 4th morning, Alex Torres came to Jake's office with a serious look on his face. Captain, I need to talk to you privately. Jake closed the door and sat down. What's going on, Alex? I've been watching the aliens very carefully. Yesterday, when they thought no one was looking, I saw Vera doing something strange near the computer systems in the meeting room. She had some kind of small device that she pressed against the wall. What kind of device? I don't know, but it looked like she was trying to connect to our computer network. When she saw me watching, she put it away quickly and smiled like nothing had happened. Jake felt his stomach drop. Are you sure? Pretty sure. And there's something else. Carlos Reyes has been monitoring the docking bay where their ship is connected to us. He says he's been hearing sounds from inside their ship. Sounds like there are a lot more people in there than just the 3 we've met. Carlos Reyes was one of Alex's best security officers, a former Marine who never missed anything important. If he said he heard something, it was probably true. How many people do you think? Jake asked. Hard to say, but Carlos thinks maybe dozens, maybe more. That afternoon, Jake called another meeting with his senior staff, but this time they met in Rosa Martinez's workshop, far away from the main meeting rooms where the aliens might be listening. We need to find out what's really going on, Jake said. I'm starting to think these people aren't telling us the truth. Lisa Carter had been working on her computer all morning. Captain, I've been studying the biology data more carefully. I think I know why their readings seemed strange. What did you find? Their bodies are human, but they're not naturally human. It's like someone took human DNA and changed it, improved it somehow, made them taller, stronger, more beautiful. But underneath there are signs of something else. Something else? I think their real bodies are different. What we're seeing might be some kind of disguise or transformation. Rosa looked up from the electronic equipment she was working on. That would explain what I've been finding in their ship's signals. I've been recording everything, and I finally figured out how to decode some of their messages. She connected her computer to a large screen on the wall. Lines of text appeared, most of it in strange symbols, but some parts were translated into English. Look at this, Rosa said, pointing to one section. This message was sent yesterday. Subject species shows expected resistance patterns. Recommend proceeding to Phase 2 of Integration Protocol. Integration Protocol? Ben Hayes asked. What does that mean? Rosa scrolled down to another message. Here's another one. Genetic samples obtained. Physical compatibility confirmed. Psychological conditioning may require standard methods. Jake felt cold. They're taking samples of our DNA. It gets worse, Rosa said. She showed them another message. This one says, previous colonies fully integrated after resistance eliminated. Recommend same approach if necessary. Alex stood up quickly. Captain, we need to search their ship, now. We can't just break into their ship, Jake said. They haven't done anything openly hostile. Yet, Alex said. But if what these messages are saying is true, they're planning something bad. Amy Foster, the assistant security chief, had been quiet during the meeting. Now she spoke up. Captain, what if we sent a small team to look around their ship while they're busy in meetings? Not to cause trouble, just to see what's really going on. Jake thought about it. It was risky, but they needed to know the truth. Who would go? Me and Carlos, Amy said. We're both trained for this kind of work. If we're careful, they won't even know we were there. And if you get caught, then at least we'll know for sure that they're not friendly. That evening, while Cale and his companions were having dinner with Jake and the senior staff in the main dining room, Amy and Carlos quietly made their way to the docking bay. They had studied the layout of the alien ship from the outside and found what looked like a maintenance entrance. The ship was much bigger on the inside than it looked from outside. Amy and Carlos moved carefully through corridors that were lit by a soft blue light. Everything was quiet, but they could hear a humming sound coming from deeper in the ship. This way, Carlos whispered, pointing toward where the sound was coming from. They walked for several minutes through corridors that all looked the same. The walls were covered with symbols that might have been writing or might have been decorations. Finally, they found a large door that was slightly open. Amy looked through the crack and gasped. Carlos, you need to see this. The room beyond the door was huge, filled with rows and rows of glass containers. Each container was big enough to hold a person, and most of them did. Amy counted at least 50 containers, and there were more, rooms beyond this one. But the people in the containers weren't the same species as Cale and his companions. Some looked like humans, but others were completely different. There were tall, thin beings with purple skin, short, round creatures covered in fur, things that looked like giant insects. And in the containers closest to the door there were several people who looked exactly like normal humans. My God, Carlos whispered. What is this place? Amy was taking pictures with a small camera. Look at the labels on the containers, she said. Each container had a small screen that showed information in the alien symbols, but some of them also had translations in different languages. Amy found several that were in English. Subject 47. Human variant. Integration 73% complete. Subject 52. Human variant. Psychological resistance eliminated. Subject 61. Human variant. Genetic modification successful. Carlos grabbed Amy's arm. We need to get out of here now. But as they turned to leave, they heard footsteps in the corridor behind them. Someone was coming. Amy and Carlos hid behind some large equipment as two figures walked past. But these weren't Cale or his companions. These were the real aliens, and they looked nothing like humans. They were tall and thin, with gray skin that looked almost transparent. Their heads were larger than human heads, and their eyes were big and completely black. They moved in a way that reminded Amy of spiders, quick and silent. The aliens spoke to each other in a language that sounded like clicks and whistles. Amy couldn't understand the words, but she could tell they were discussing something important. After the aliens passed, Amy and Carlos quickly made their way back to the maintenance entrance. They had seen enough. Back on Aurora Station, they immediately went to find Captain Morrison. Jake was still in the dining room with the fake humans, pretending everything was normal. Amy sent him a text message on his personal communicator. Emergency. Meet in your office immediately. Jake made an excuse about needing to check on station operations and left the dinner. When he got to his office, Amy and Carlos were waiting with Lisa, Rosa, and Alex. Captain, Amy said, they're not human, and they're not our ancestors. They're something else entirely, and they've been collecting people from different species and experimenting on them. She showed Jake the pictures she had taken. Jake's face went white as he looked at the containers filled with beings from different worlds. There were humans in there, Captain, Carlos said. Real humans like us. But they were being changed somehow. The labels said things about integration and genetic modification. Lisa studied the pictures on Amy's camera. This explains everything. They're not trying to reunite with long-lost family. They're collecting genetic material from different species and using it to improve themselves. Or replace themselves, Rosa added. Look at those readings I showed you earlier. They're probably not even the same species that built those ships originally. Jake sat down heavily in his chair. So what are they? Predators, Alex said simply. They find younger civilizations, pretend to be their friends or their ancestors, and then they take what they want. What do we do now? Jake asked. Before anyone could answer, Jake's communicator beeped. It was Danny Wright from the bridge. Captain, the aliens are asking to speak with you. They say it's urgent. Jake looked at his team. They know we found out. Maybe, Alex said. Or maybe they were always planning to do this next, whatever this is. Jake stood up. Alex, get your security teams ready. Rosa, send an emergency message to Earth Command and all the nearby stations. Tell them everything we've learned. What are you going to do? Lisa asked. I'm going to go talk to our visitors, Jake said, and find out what they really want. As Jake walked toward the meeting room where the aliens were waiting, he wondered if Aurora Station was about to become humanity's first real test as a spacefaring species. The fake humans had been studying them for days, learning their weaknesses. But they had also been learning about human courage and determination. Jake hoped that would be enough. Jake Morrison walked into the meeting room where Cale, Vera, and Marcus were waiting. They looked the same as before, tall and beautiful and perfect. But now Jake knew it was all fake. He tried to keep his face calm, but his heart was beating fast. Captain Morrison, Cale said with his perfect smile, we hope you have considered our offer to join us in the space between galaxies. Your people would be much happier living with their true family. I've been thinking about it, Jake said carefully. But I have some questions first. Of course. We want you to be completely comfortable with this decision. Jake sat down across from them. I'd like to talk to some of the other human colonies you mentioned, the ones who have already joined you. For just a moment, Cale's smile became less perfect. That is not possible right now. The distances are very great, and communication is difficult. But your ships can travel those distances easily. Yes, but bringing representatives here would take too much time. We are eager to welcome you home soon. Jake nodded like he understood, but inside he was getting angry. These creatures had been lying to him and his crew for days. What exactly does joining you mean? What would happen to my people? Vera spoke. You would be improved, made stronger and healthier. You would live much longer lives and have access to technologies beyond your imagination. Improved how? Marcus leaned forward. Small changes to your biology. Nothing that would change who you are as people, just making you better than you are. Now, Jake thought about the containers full of beings that Amy and Carlos had seen. And if we don't want to be improved? The three aliens looked at each other. Jake saw something pass between them, some kind of silent communication. Why would you not want to be better? Kyle asked. Every other species we have found has been grateful for our help. Maybe we're different. Cale's smile disappeared completely. When he spoke again, his voice was different too. Colder. Yes, we have noticed that humans are quite stubborn, but that can be corrected. Jake felt ice in his stomach. Corrected? Captain Morrison, Vera said, and now her beautiful face looked cruel. We have been patient with you because we hoped you would cooperate willingly, but we do not need your permission. Suddenly, Jake couldn't move. His arms and legs felt heavy, like they were made of stone. He tried to stand up but couldn't. A simple neural inhibitor, Marcus explained. We released it into your station's air system an hour ago. By now, most of your crew should be unable to move. Jake tried to speak but could only make a small sound. We really did hope you would choose to join us peacefully, Cale said. It makes the integration process much easier. But humans from other colonies have fought us too at first. They all learned to accept their new lives eventually. The three aliens stood up, and as they did, their appearances began to change. Their skin became gray and transparent. Their eyes turned black and grew larger. Their beautiful human faces became something else entirely. "We are the Karneth," Kale said, his voice now sounding like clicking insects. "We have been collecting genetic material from younger species for thousands of years. Each new species makes us stronger and more adaptable." Jake watched in horror as the creatures that had pretended to be humanity's ancestors revealed their true forms. They looked like nightmares, tall and thin with too many joints in their arms and legs. "Your DNA is particularly interesting," Vera said. "Humans adapt to new environments better than most species. That will be very useful for us." But as the Karneth were talking, Jake heard something that gave him hope. Footsteps in the corridor outside. Someone was still moving. The door to the meeting room exploded inward. Alex Torres came through first carrying a large weapon. Behind him were Amy Foster, Carlos Reyes, and several other security officers. They were all wearing breathing masks. "Get away from the captain," Alex shouted. The Karneth spun around, surprised. "Impossible," Marcus hissed. "The neural inhibitor should have affected all of you." "Maybe it would have," Alex said, "if we hadn't figured out what you were planning and sealed off our air supply an hour ago." Rosa Martinez appeared in the doorway behind the security team. "Captain, we sent your emergency message to Earth Command. Help is coming, but it's going to take time to get here." Jake felt strength returning to his arms and legs as the clean air from the corridor reached him. He stood up slowly, trying not to fall over. "You have made a serious mistake," Kyle said. "We have ships that can destroy your entire station in minutes." "Maybe," Alex said, "but you're not going to do that while you're still connected to us." Amy stepped forward. "We've also got some surprises for you. While you were busy trying to drug us, we've been learning about your technology." The Karneth looked confused. "What do you mean?" Rosa held up a small device. "Your ships might be advanced, but they're made from parts you stole from dozens of different species. All those different technologies don't work together very well if you know how to disrupt them." "Impossible," Vera said. "You are a primitive species. You cannot understand our technology." "You're right," Jake said, feeling stronger every minute. "We don't understand your technology, but we understand something you don't." "And what is that?" "How to fight dirty." Jake nodded to Rosa, who pressed a button on her device. Immediately, lights began flashing red all over the station, and alarms started ringing. "What have you done?" Kyle demanded. "We've infected your ship's computer systems with a virus," Rosa explained. "It's designed to find all the places where different technologies are connected and make them stop working together." Through the meeting room's window, Jake could see the three Karneth ships. They were flickering, their lights going on and off randomly. "You see," Lisa Carter said, appearing in the doorway with Ben Hayes and Danny Wright. "We studied your genetic camouflage system while you were pretending to be human. Once we figured out how it worked, we could design something to disrupt it. Your ships use the same kind of hybrid systems as your bodies," Ben added. "Lots of different parts that don't naturally work together. Take away the connections and everything falls apart." The three Karneth in the room were beginning to flicker too, their human disguises failing. One moment they looked like the beautiful humans they had pretended to be. The next moment they appeared as the gray, insect-like creatures they really were. "This is not over," Kale said, his voice switching between human speech and alien clicking. "We have conquered hundreds of species. We will not be defeated by primitives like you." "Maybe not," Jake said. "But you're not going to conquer us today." Alex and his security team moved forward with special restraints that Rosa had designed. The Karneth tried to fight, but their technology was failing along with their disguises. Over the next several hours, Jake and his crew worked to secure the station and help the beings they found in the Karneth ships. Many of them were still alive, including several humans from colonies that had been attacked years earlier. Dr. Lisa Carter worked with the medical team to help the rescued prisoners. Some of them had been changed by Carnath experiments, but most could be helped to return to normal lives. "Captain," Danny called from the communication station. "I'm getting signals from Earth Command. A whole fleet is on the way." "Good," Jake said. "We'll need help dealing with all these people we rescued." Alex walked over to Jake, looking tired but satisfied. "The Carnath ships are completely disabled. Whatever Rosa did to their systems worked perfectly. Where are the Carnath now?" "Locked up in our most secure cells. They keep threatening us, saying their people will come looking for them." Jake looked out at the stars through the station's main window. "Let them come, we'll be ready." Rosa joined them at the window. "Captain, we've learned a lot from their technology. Not enough to copy it, but enough to defend against it. And we've got samples of their genetic camouflage system." "What does that mean?" "It means the next time someone shows up claiming to be humanity's long-lost relatives, we'll be able to tell if they're lying." Jake smiled. It was the first time he had really smiled in days. "Good, I think humanity has had enough of fake families for a while." 3 days later, Admiral Kate Sullivan arrived with a fleet of 12 Earth defense ships. She listened to Jake's report and examined all the evidence his crew had collected. "Captain Morrison," she said finally, "you and your crew have done something incredible. You've not only saved yourselves, but you've probably saved our entire species from slavery." "We just did our jobs, Admiral. Your jobs didn't include fighting off shape-shifting aliens and rescuing prisoners from a dozen different worlds. That was something extra." Admiral Sullivan stood up and looked out at the disabled Carnath ships. "We're going to study these ships and learn everything we can from them, and we're going to make sure every human colony knows what to watch out for." Jake nodded. "What about the Carnath? They said their people would come looking for them. Then we'll be ready for them, too. Thanks to you, we know what they really are now. They can't fool us again." As Jake watched the Admiral's ships take the Carnath vessels away, he thought about what had happened. The creatures had been right about one thing. Humans were stubborn. But they had been wrong about something important. Human stubbornness wasn't a flaw that needed to be corrected. It was exactly what had saved them. The stars looked the same as they always had, but somehow,